Thank you for tuning in to LeadDeveloper.com, where we simplify complex property development feasibilities, investment analysis, and everything real estate. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, our Google Sheets-based feasibility suite streamlines the toughest aspects of real estate. Lead Developer Feasibility Suite is trusted by thousands in over 17 countries. Our tools cover everything from quick assessments to detailed cash flow projections and more. Sign up today at LeadDeveloper.com for unlimited free access to our expanding library of real estate tools. No credit card needed. Plus, get full support through Edge with step-by-step guidance, exclusive courses, and resources designed for your success. Turn numbers into narratives that win over investors and lenders. Join Lead Developer now.
Hey everyone, and welcome back. You know, I bet you've walked by some massive construction project at some point and wondered, how did this even, get off the ground?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. It's all about the world of property development loan proposals. You know, those documents that basically turn blueprints into actual buildings. And to guide us on this journey, we've got 7 keys for property development loan proposal.
Great source.
Which, is aimed at developers, so it's packed with insider knowledge that you won't really find anywhere.
Right, and it's really amazing just how much information and work goes into these proposals. It's not just about, showing that you have a good idea. You have to prove to lenders that you and your project are worth their investment.
Yeah, that makes sense. But I got to admit, when I skimmed through this guide, I was pretty intimidated by just how much info you need.
Oh, yeah.
Financial statements, market analysis, resumes for the entire team.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Where do you even begin with something like that? It's true that a successful proposal needs to be really thorough. The key is to think of it less like a mountain of data and more as a story.
Okay.
Yeah, you're essentially trying to craft a narrative that's going to captivate your lenders and get them to buy into your vision for the project.
Okay, so it's all about storytelling. That's interesting. But how do you walk that line between being compelling and not overselling or overpromising? Because the guide mentions that too, right? Don't oversell. Why is that so important?
It's super important because lenders are pretty savvy.
You're right.
They've seen it all. They can spot unrealistic projections right away. It's best to think of it from their perspective. They're giving you a ton of capital, and they want to make sure it's not a risky investment.
Yeah.
So if you come in with inflated projections or shaky assumptions, it just makes you look like you don't really understand the market or the project itself.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You don't want to come off as naive or worse, dishonest. But then how do you find that sweet spot between having that compelling vision and keeping things, realistic?
That's where due diligence comes in.
Right.
And by that, I mean really getting to know your project and the market inside and out.
Okay.
Digging into data, analyzing trends, and really pushing your assumptions to the limit. That means you're going to be studying demographic shifts, the competitive landscape, even things like possible economic downturns.
Okay.
The more thorough your due diligence is, the more confident you'll be in your projections. And that confidence is going to show in your proposal.
So it's not just about number crunching, it's about really understanding the why behind those numbers and having a solid reason for every single projection. But speaking of presenting information, this guide is really strict about formatting.
Yeah.
Standardized formats, clear sections. Why is that so important? It seems like they're putting a lot of emphasis on the presentation and not the content.
It might seem that way, but you got to remember that lenders are busy people.
Right, yeah.
They're reviewing tons of these proposals, so they need to be able to quickly find and assess the information that's important to them.
Right.
A clear format makes their job a lot easier. It's like you're giving them a roadmap, guiding them through the key elements of your project.
I see. So it's all about respecting their time and not making them, have to dig through everything. You're holding their hand through the numbers and making sure they don't get lost.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, a lot of sections of the proposal, especially those with complicated financial or legal stuff, are often put together with help from experts. So you'll probably have these amazing spreadsheets from your finance person, legal documents from your attorney, and detailed plans from your architect.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Those experts are the pros at making that kind of information easy to understand. But doesn't that create a risk of the proposal feeling like a patchwork quilt if you're pulling from so many different places?
Yeah.
How do you make sure that it feels like a cohesive document?
Well, that's where you come in as the developer. You're the visionary behind this whole project.
Yeah.
So you're the one who takes all these different threads, the financials, the legal stuff, the market analysis, the design plans, and weave them together into one cohesive and compelling narrative.
Whoa. So I'm like the director of this whole real estate production, getting the best people for the job and shaping their work into this final masterpiece.
Yeah, perfect analogy. You're bringing together the screenwriter, the production designer, the cinematographer, the whole crew. And you're creating a film that's going to wow those studio execs, in this case, the lenders.
I love that. And speaking of having the right crew, the guide points out this whole team of specialists involved in this process, attorneys, architects, contractors. It's like a real estate vendors team. But do you really need all those specialists, especially if you're working on a smaller project? Isn't that kind of overkill?
No, not at all. Each role is super important, not just for the project itself, but for building a proposal that makes the lenders feel confident. Having a strong, experienced team shows that you're taking this seriously, that you've thought everything through, and that you're prepared to handle any challenges that pop up, which happens a lot in property development.
So it's like showing them that you're not a one-person show.
Yeah.
You've got this network of capable people who are backing you up. It's like saying, hey, I've got the A-team on this. We're ready for anything.
Exactly. And all those experts bring their unique points of view and insights to the proposal, which makes the content even better and makes it more believable.
Speaking of enriching the proposal, the guide mentions exhibits, which are things like maps, photos, site plans. Is this like a visual mood board for the project? Adding a little flair to all the spreadsheets and numbers?
Yeah, there's definitely a visual element to it, but it's a lot more than just making it look pretty. Visuals help the lenders really understand the scope and the potential of the project in a way that words and numbers sometimes just can't.
Yeah, it's like they say, a picture's worth 1,000 spreadsheets.
Exactly. And those visuals, they're not just about showing the after picture, the finished product.
Yeah.
They can be really effective in showing the transformation that's going to happen, like a before and after picture. A rundown warehouse next to a rendering of a modern, sleek office space. That contrast tells a story of potential and revitalization.
That's a great point. It's about showing the value being created, but the guide also warns about getting too carried away with fancy artist renderings.
Yeah.
They often make things look better than they actually are. So how do you balance showcasing the potential without going overboard?
That's a great question. And it goes back to that core principle we talked about earlier. Don't oversell.
Okay.
Even though those visuals can be super persuasive,
Yeah.
they need to be rooted in reality. You need that solid data and realistic projections to back them up.
Okay, so it's about finding that sweet spot between what you're hoping for and what's realistic.
Yeah.
Showing the dream, but with the data to support it. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of seeing a project come to life, the guide actually includes a sample proposal, right? What kind of project is it?
Yeah, it's for turning a manufacturing plant into a mixed-use development. So it's got residential units and retail spaces.
Wow, that's a pretty big project. Turning an old industrial space into this vibrant community, it's like taking something that's been forgotten and giving it a new purpose.
Yeah.
I imagine a project like that comes with a lot of its own challenges, right?
Oh, absolutely. But the guide does a great job of breaking those challenges down and showing how to present them in a way that lenders can understand and even get excited about.
Okay, so we've talked about telling a good story, doing your due diligence, using powerful visuals, building a solid team.
Yeah.
It's clear that creating a successful loan proposal is about way more than just throwing some numbers on a page and hoping for the best. It takes careful planning and execution.
It does. Yeah. It's about crafting a compelling story with solid data behind it and present it in a way that's both convincing and transparent.
And the guide gives you a framework for doing just that right.
Exactly.
It's like a roadmap guiding developers through each step and pointing out the things to avoid.
Yeah. It's a valuable resource for anyone who wants to navigate the world of property development financing.
This has been incredibly insightful. I'm starting to see how all these pieces work together, but what would you say is the biggest mistake developers make when putting these proposals together? Like, what's the one thing to absolutely avoid?
I would say that one of the most common and potentially costly mistakes is underestimating the importance of a rock-solid financial analysis.
Ah, yeah.
You can have the most amazing project, the best story, but if your financials are weak, it's just going to fall apart.
Right.
Lenders want to see that you've done the work, you know the market, and that your project is going to make money.
Okay, so let's talk about financials then. What are lenders looking for in a proposal's financial analysis?
Well, they're looking for a complete picture of how the project is doing financially, both now and in the future.
Okay.
So that means you need detailed projections of your revenue, expenses, cash flow, and debt service coverage ratios.
Debt service coverage ratios.
Yeah.
Could you break that down a bit for me and for our listeners who might not be financial experts?
Sure. Basically, it shows lenders how much money your project is expected to make compared to how much you need to make your loan payments.
Got it.
A higher ratio means you have more wiggle room, so you're less risky to lend to.
So it's like a measure of your financial breathing room, how easily you can handle your debt.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there any common mistakes that developers make when they're putting these financial projections together?
One big one is being too optimistic about things like how many units will be occupied, how much rent you'll collect, or what construction will actually cost.
Right.
It's easy to get carried away and paint a rosy picture, but lenders are going to see right through that.
Yeah.
They want to see realistic projections based on real market data and conservative estimates.
So how do you balance being optimistic and realistic? It feels like a tough thing to do.
It is, and this is where having a good financial expert on your team can be really helpful. They can help you build those financial models that take different situations into account, test your assumptions, and figure out where the risks might be. Remember, it's not just about the best-case scenario.
Right.
It's about showing that you've thought about what could go wrong, too.
That makes sense. It's about being prepared for the unexpected, having a plan B if things don't go as planned.
Right.
Now let's go back to that sample proposal in the guide, the one about turning that manufacturing plant into something new. What did their financial analysis look like?
Theirs was really thorough.
Okay.
They broke down their revenue projections by residential and retail space and factored in market rents, how many units they thought would be occupied, even potential rent increases down the line.
Okay.
And for expenses, they included everything from the basic operating costs and property taxes to things like marketing and maintenance.
Wow, that's a lot of detail.
Yeah.
But I guess all that detail is what gives lenders confidence, right? It shows that you've really thought through every financial aspect of the project.
Absolutely. And, all that detail is good for you as a developer, too.
Okay, how so?
Well, it makes you really look at your assumptions, spot places where you might go over budget, and come up with ways to make the project as profitable as possible.
So it's like a financial reality check before you even start building.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's also why the guide talks about having 2 separate files for your proposal.
2 files.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm curious. Tell me more.
So you have your official proposal, the polished one that you give to the lenders,
Okay.
but you also keep a working file for yourself
Okay.
with all the behind-the-scenes stuff, meeting notes, early calculations, all the different scenarios you considered.
So like the director's cut with deleted scenes and extra commentary.
Exactly. That working file is so important because it shows all the work you did.
Right.
It proves that you really investigated the project,
Mhm.
looked at different options, and made smart decisions based on real data.
That's a really smart idea. It's like a paper trail that protects you. If there are any questions or arguments later on, you can show that you were thorough and honest throughout the whole process. It's like an insurance policy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, even though the financial analysis is key, it's not the only thing that matters.
Right. We talked about visuals earlier, and the guide also talks about having a good team.
Exactly. And that team isn't just architects and contractors.
Yeah.
You should also think about specialists like environmental consultants, traffic engineers, even marketing people.
It sounds like you're building this whole network of experts around your project. But how do you know who to bring in? How do you decide which specialists are really necessary for your project?
Well, it depends on how complicated your project is.
Okay.
A big development might need more specialists than a smaller, simpler project.
Right.
But in general, you want a team that can handle all the different parts of the development process, from the very first feasibility studies to the final marketing and sales.
And it's not just about filling those roles, right?
No.
It's about finding people who are passionate about the project, who share your vision, and who have the experience to make it happen.
Absolutely. You want people around you who will push you, inspire you, and help you make the project the best it can be. And don't forget, their expertise is reflected in the proposal too.
Right, because they're not just working on the project, they're also adding their credibility to the proposal.
Exactly.
It's like saying to the lenders, look, I've got this all-star team and we're ready to knock this project out of the park.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And remember, building a team is an ongoing process. As your project changes, you might need to bring in new specialists or adjust your team to face new challenges or take advantage of new opportunities.
So you got to be flexible and realize that the team might change as the project goes along.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Well, we've covered a lot from telling a good story and doing your due diligence to the importance of visuals and having a strong team. It's clear that putting together a good loan proposal is a complicated thing with a lot of moving parts. But the guide gives us a way to handle that complexity right.
It does.
It's like a roadmap that guides developers through each step and shows them what to watch out for.
It absolutely does. And one of the key things the guide stresses is the importance of having a fantastic executive summary.
Okay.
It's like the first impression.
Right.
It can either really hook those lenders or make them lose interest completely.
Yeah, it's their first taste of what the project's all about.
Exactly. It's got to be short, catchy, and super clear.
All right, so let's say I'm in an elevator with a lender. What are the key points I need to hit to get them interested?
Okay, first you got to introduce the project with something that grabs their attention, something that shows how unique and amazing it could be.
Okay.
Then you highlight why the market needs this project, the gap you're filling, and why now is the perfect time for it.
Got it.
And of course, you got to show off your team's expertise and all the success you've had in the past.
So it's like you're painting a picture of this amazing project, this market that's hungry for it, and the team that can make it all happen. But how do you cram all of that into a short summary without overwhelming them?
Think of it like a movie trailer.
Yeah,
You just give them enough to make them want to see the whole film. In this case, the whole film is your proposal.
I love that analogy. Speaking of the sample proposal, how did they do their executive summary for that manufacturing plant project?
They did a fantastic job. They started by talking about how the whole area was being revitalized and how there was this growing need for places that had both apartments and shops.
Okay, yeah.
They presented their project as something that would kickstart even more growth,
Yeah.
like a transformation for that old industrial area.
So they tied it into this bigger story of urban renewal and bringing new life to the community. That's really smart. Did they include any numbers or financials in the summary?
Yeah, but they kept it high level, just focusing on the main things, like how much money they expected to make and how many jobs they thought it would create.
Right.
It was just a taste of the financial benefits without going into too much detail right away.
It's like a delicious appetizer that gets them excited for the main course, which is the full financial breakdown later on.
Exactly. The executive summary is all about setting the stage, making it exciting, and making that lender want to dig deeper into your project.
So we've talked about telling a great story, doing your homework, putting together an amazing team, and writing a killer executive summary. It's clear that creating a winning loan proposal is like this orchestra of different parts all working together. But this might still seem overwhelming for someone who's just starting out. What's the one piece of advice you would give to a new developer who's about to dive into all of this?
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with people who have done this before, mentors, consultants, advisors, people who can help you through the process, share their knowledge, and help you avoid those common mistakes.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it all alone.
That's such great advice. And there are so many resources available, like the 7 Keys guide we've been talking about.
Right.
It gives you so much practical advice and insights. It's like having a property development coach right there with you.
It's exactly. And networking is super important too. Go to industry events, meet other developers, and learn from what they've been through.
Yeah.
The real estate world is full of people who want to share what they know and support each other.
I love that. It's like a reminder that even though this process can be tough, you're not in it alone. There's a whole community of people who have been there, done that, and want to see you succeed.
I couldn't agree more.
This has been an awesome deep dive into the world of property development loan proposals. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of what it takes to make these projects a reality. A big thank you to expert speaker for being here and sharing your knowledge with us.
It was my pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, whether you're a seasoned developer or just starting out, remember that a great loan proposal is the key to unlocking your project's full potential. So keep those creative ideas flowing, keep those numbers grounded, and keep building those dream teams. Until next time, happy developing.